All right, welcome back to Talking Finance and Banking with Transforming Your Life. So let's talk about something that I feel like a lot of people are really not fond of. And this is something that I think is somewhat necessary, but also at the same time, kind of unnecessary, kind of depending on who you're talking to and what's happening. So, and let me preface this conversation with I'm not doing this again to defend any type of predatory institution, and I'm not doing this to defend, the predatory nature of what it stands for. I am doing this to educate you on why it is somewhat necessary because a lot of these institutions have to operate as a business, okay? It is talking about overdraft fees. Okay. So the concept of overdraft just seems a little bit questionable in a lot of people's cases. So if I don't have the money, go ahead and decline it. Well, unfortunately, what that causes in some cases is you may not have $5 in the 800 to $1,000 that you are spending on rent, and they want to make sure that that is covered, right? So in those particular cases, overdrafts are effectively charged, and they do it as a convenience, and it allows those things to go by. So bills that are being paid, obviously everyone makes mistakes, and it does happen. Um, some of the fees are a little excessive. Some of them are $35. Some of them, reach close to 40. A lot of credit unions will have something below 30. And I know there is a rule at the current time that was supposed to be implemented in October of 2025 of this year, trying to cap it off at $5. Or there are two other alternatives. You can talk about it later. But with the CFPB being dismantled, it's a whole different conversation, different story. But let's continue. So, the necessity of an overdraft fee, in my opinion, is kind of twofold because if it's a small amount, and I feel like there should be definitely a set rule for this, is if it's a small amount, I would kind of forego it, right? Um, and especially if they have shown a history that they can pay it back or deposit the money back in time to make sure that it's covered. So, and I think a lot of institutions may be willing to kind of um, work with that, especially if the amount isn't some egregious amount. But when it comes to overdrafting a lot, right? I do see that there are some that will overdraft hundreds and hundreds of dollars up to even some thousands, and it kind of pushes you in this situation of, okay, well, if they're doing that, what's going on, right? And even though it would push them into a situation of, okay, well, I didn't have $100, now I owe $100 plus the overdraft fee, which could be 20, 30, $40. So it puts them even further into negative. Well, that kind of creates a maybe you should not be doing this if you have the ability to not, right? Because if they are overdrafting and then they get punished for it, then it will kind of force them to think, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Maybe I should be a little bit more careful. It happens because here becomes the problem. If there's no punishment for using money that you do not have, then people will continue to abuse it. Now, your average citizen may not do that, but for the most part, if you're not being punished to use an extra $100, you're going to use that extra $100. So, what happens? Well, if the person is in the negative for an extended amount of time, most likely the account will be charged off, which means the institution is taking a loss. Okay, who cares, right? Most people are like, well, they make millions, they make billions off of people. But the problem is when you create this non penalized action of overdrafting consistently, and you lose one consumer. Let's say you lose one consumer because they, used $100, add the overdraft fee, they couldn't do it. It doesn't matter for one consumer, but when it matters to a couple 100,000 to a couple millions, that's a very large loss that they cannot recuperate. So the entire point of an overdraft fee is meant to kind of punish the person for using funds that they don't have. Now, why that's not necessary in some cases, we can go over that a little bit later. But the way to fix this, in my opinion, is to kind of have it based off of a tier list almost, right? If the amount is less than, say, $10, you can maybe charge a very small amount to $3, maybe five max. And then for larger amounts, if that is to happen, then maybe charge the larger amount. Um, Now, every institution probably has some alternative fix to do this. So if you have money in your savings account, that can typically be used as an overdraft type of draw account, or if you have a personal line of credit, a lot of times you are able to use that as an overdraft protection as well. So, these overdraft fees, they do seem excessive and unnecessary to some, but when you kind of look at the bigger picture, it is necessary, because if you're not punishing somebody for using money that they don't have, it's going to get abused. A lot of these free services, or a lot of these, reciprocal services where you get something back for it, you will end up in a situation where someone is abusing it, which is why we have this conversation of why is it even happening in the first place. So hopefully that helps you guys to understand why it's necessary. Do I think some of the fees could be lessened? Absolutely. So hope you guys have a good day. Love you guys.